Over the weekend, I texted Marc Spears after reading an incredible story in Anscape. And incredible not because the circumstances made you feel great about society. Incredible because the story was being told in a compelling way, as most Marc Spears stories are, and the aftermath of turning a negative event into a positive one. Washington Wizards general manager Will Dawkins racially profiled by a Saks Fifth Avenue security guard who was assisted by the Miami Police Department. And Will Dawkins told his story to Marc Spears. I told you a Hall of Famer was joining us. Here's a Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame basketball writer, Hall of Fame basketball contributor, Marc Spears. And Marc, I'm just gonna tell you this, man. I've invited you to my classes at BU before. It didn't work out. We had a technical difficulty that day. But the reason I invited you that day is your reporting experience and your ability to interview. I think you are one of the best interviewers in America because you get people to you listen, and you get people to tell their stories in ways that a lot of people can't get them to relax and open up. And I think this is a prime example of it. This Will Dawkins story, man, it just really hit me in so many ways, especially when you quoted Will saying his mother told him, this story didn't happen to you, it happened for you. So for you to tell your story. What did you think when you first heard about this? And was there any hesitation by Dawkins to be as open with you as he was?
Well, when I first heard it, I think it's just a reminder to African American community and a lot of people of color that doesn't matter how much success you have, doesn't matter how much money you have, you could face racial discrimination on any day. And, you know, the man was basically minding his own business, bought a shirt, had the receipt, had the shirt, and still got, you know, damn near tackled by the Saks Fifth Avenue security guard and a Miami police officer, and, you know, who, once they looked at surveillance, he didn't even look like the guy. That's the thing. I wish I had a picture of the guy, but it's got to be disheartening because, you know, any time he walks into a store now, you can't help but think about what happened. It's really, really sad because, you know, but because of what his mother said, which I think was eloquent, I think he realized that by him telling his story, maybe it helped somebody else. By him telling his story, maybe there's another store that changes the way that they look at things. I had a similar incident, not as bad as his, but a racially profiling incident with some friends in Healdsburg, California last year. And while that store didn't do nothing to change anything, the city did, you know, made some changes. So I think that's what he was thinking, because if you think about it, Will could have sued Saks.
That's right. He
could have sued him. He could have made a lot of money, but instead of doing that, he decided to raise some money for charity. He didn't ask for a penny. He asked them to change their policies and you know, work together instead of, you know, making this a big fight. And there's a lot of people that wouldn't have been, you know, so, you know, gracious and such a terror to help others instead of helping himself. And that says a lot about his character, even in the midst of a bunch of pain.
Yeah, Marc, that was the thing that struck me when I was reading the story, was that, you know, and I know Will a little bit, you know, just very mild-mannered, very, you know, professional, very, you know, upstanding, you know, in his approach and how he handles things. Marc, I'm curious, because of the grace that he showed, what were his emotions like when you talked to him? Because we are clearly, when the incident happened, we're a few months removed, several months removed from him, but those things stick with you. So was there still anger and frustration there, or was there other emotions that you could sort of convey when you talked to him?
Yeah, no, I think he said, I asked him, did you stop going to malls? Did you stop going to stores? He's like, I like shopping too much. I had to get over it. But he said for a while, and even from time to time now, he still looks behind his back, checks his surroundings, makes sure he's okay. I don't think that goes away. It doesn't. It's going to stick with him. And so no, he's having some from time to time. You get that pain, you get that anger. Um, the fact that somebody would grab you like that, didn't identify themselves, and that security guard had since been, released of his duties. I think he knew that night, according to Will, that he probably was about to lose his job. In fact, the Miami police, after he told them who he was, they Googled him, and Will said they took exit stage right. Like they're like, we ain't getting involved in this. You're on your own, Sax dude. So no, I don't. I think he has his moments, but having this collaboration with Saks Fifth Avenue, and I give him credit for this. They made. He wouldn't tell me how much it was, but they made sizable donations to 3 different places. And they retrained their security guards. And if one of their security guards messes up, they're going to retrain them again. Perhaps if there was something I was a little disappointed in, or I didn't ask Will this, was why didn't they make this policy throughout the country instead of just this one store? Right?
Yeah.
Perhaps they should have retrained everybody throughout the country. So I think that's where perhaps Saks was, could have done much more. But in terms of being accountable, apologizing, making sizable donations, I give Saks credit for basically being upfront about being wrong.
You know what, fellas, I didn't major in psychology at all, and maybe took a few you minored? You minored in it?
Yeah, I minored in it.
Well, you tell me this. You tell me if my theory, if it has any weight. Listen, well, okay. Hey, listen, we'll figure it out on TV. We'll solve. I didn't major in basketball either. I talk about it all the time, So, but I have this theory. Tell me if it holds weight. I think you see great examples of self-hatred and classism in a lot of high-end luxury stores from security personnel and from the people who some of the salespeople. Because look, man, you're going into the store, in a lot of cases, we can afford it. Okay? We can afford it. But
or you wouldn't have walked in the store in the first place. I ain't walking into a Lamborghini store.
Right. But because of the way we look, sometimes the staff that cannot afford it, frankly, sometimes the staff looks at us like we shouldn't be there. And so I think the intensity and the gaze just goes up like 25 levels. And so it's really nuts how this happens. And unfortunately, this story is familiar. It's familiar. What makes the story different is that it happened to a Washington Wizards general manager who, as you pointed out, Mark, didn't just say, hey, this happens all the time. I can't believe this. Okay, I'm going to let it go and move on. This guy said, no. I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to draw attention to it. I think it's phenomenal because a lot of general managers, a lot of people this happens to, they're so humiliated, they want it to go away, or they're so angry that they go for that money, but not talk about some of the lessons learned in the story.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I had that incident in Healdsburg, and people could look it up if they want to look it up, last year, it was 5 of us, including Eddie Kennison, former NFL star. We did a wine tasting and then went to this furniture store in Healdsburg, and immediately you saw the people like it from behind the cash register and kind of watch us and watch where we're going. And, once they calmed down, and we all had like church clothes on, so I don't know how we look like these. I know how we look like these, but the lady had told me, I'd asked her about the bathroom, and she said it was a police station across the street where you could use the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And then I indulged her. I'm like, okay, because maybe that's true. I'm like, the police station, and this is where she, I think, crossed the line where she said, well, don't worry about it. You won't get arrested.
Ooh.
And so, like, and before that, I think oftentimes when you go into that situation where you're being racially profiled in the store, you go into it thinking like, I'm buying something before I leave. I have to buy something to prove to these people that I have the
Yes.
money to buy something. And I've made the mistake of doing that
Amen.
before.
Amen.
And
Yep.
before I asked the bathroom question, I caught myself because I was gonna buy something just to prove to them that I deserve to be there. And then I was like, that's stupid.
Right.
Why do I
Hmm.
even want to give them any of my money?
Right.
Oh, that's like the scene in Boomerang where,
Yeah,
Martin and Eddie Murphy and they're in the suit store and they're
yeah,
they're all nattily dressed. And the guy comes up and says, that jacket is $1,800. And Martin was like, "What, you think I can't pay for it?" And he
yeah,
says, "We don't keep cash in the store." It's like that when I was reading the story after I was done with it, I was thinking of that scene,
yeah,
especially when they
Right.
walked out and Eddie Murphy
yeah,
Right.
yelled, "Now," to the guy, and the guy jumped like it was,
yeah,
like somebody had pulled a gun on him. Like
yeah,
it's I think as black men, and we're all of a certain age to some degree. I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but you
yeah. You always
feel
mention that.
like no,
Yeah.
I'm saying just a
That.
generational thing. I'm just saying generational thing.
Oh, okay.
Like it
You
it
ain't no
cross
no.
it crosses
You ain't that
generations.
much younger. You ain't that much younger. But anyway, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. We're listening. We're listening. Go ahead. Make your point.
I think
Yeah,
I was going to say was you feel like that awareness, when you walk in a store. Like you feel that if you
yeah,
walk into something high end, like that eyes are going to be on you, no matter who is actually. It could be black people working there, and you
yeah.
Hmm.
know that the eyes are going to be on you. Mark, I don't think that ever leaves you, right?
No.
I'm sure like as
Well,
much as Will Dawkins loves to shop, when he goes into a
yeah,
Saks or Neiman's or something like that,
yeah,
he's got his around us not just on loss prevention.
yeah,
He's got his eyes on the salespeople. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Right.
No, and then the one thing that's good with him is I think he got closure on something so bad, and that they're doing something better. With my situation, there was no closure. In fact, the lady reached out to me later, told me she had one black friend,
Oh,
and that she wasn't.
not that
Yeah,
one.
told me
Not that one. Not that comment.
black,
Oh,
she had a
come
black
on.
girlfriend, and she knows how what black people go through. She had one black friend for 20 years. And there's no way
That
that she could
special
have felt
one.
racially profiled in my store.
Just
And
say
I'm like,
one. Why only one? Why only one in a generation? Only one. Don't you find that problematic? What
one.
about
How come?
what if I told
How
Gotta
you
come?
be
How
I
come?
got one
How
white
come those
friend?
friends? How come her black friends, or how come that
friend.
woman's or whoever's black friends don't rock with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like yeah, you got the one black friend, but that person's
yeah,
friends don't rock with you for whatever
yeah.
reason.
So she was
Yeah.
she was trying to explain to me by watching the video, there's no way I should have felt racially profiled.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
man.
tell you.
I like exited the conversation because I like ain't nothing good gonna come from this, man. She showed me how she stood.
But you know what? And the last thing I'll say on this, because I want to ask you a couple more things before we move on, before we get out of here, Mark. I think we all can relate to this too, whether it's your parents or your friends. Just having somebody who you can tell your story to, who understands your position and can give you wise counsel. Will
Yeah.
Dawkins' parents are fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I mean, between the quotes you had from him talking about the conversations with his mom and
Yeah.
conversations with his dad saying, "Hey, this is your
And his
moment.
dad
Would you
pushed him
want
to
yeah.
do something.
Would you want your son to go through this? Would you want your
Yeah.
son to go through it? No.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
Amazing.
I give Will Dawkins credit on this. One, obviously, has amazing parents, and he said that what his parents told him kind of pushed him over to do something publicly. He also made a point before the players went, off to wherever they went at the end of the regular season, in their exit meeting to tell them about what happened to him. and for them to be careful. Like, how sad is this, right? You got these multi-million-dollar, predominantly black men on the Washington Wizards, and your African-American general manager is basically like telling you the same story, Holly, that you tell your son about driving while black and stuff like that, right? Like, as much money and prowess as those guys have, the general manager still felt like, and was certainly this, I think, being a father in a sense, telling them like, hey man, I know how big of stars you guys are, but this can still happen to you.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.